Welcome back, Natural Resources students. Today we're going to look at something that I'm not terribly familiar with, to be perfectly honest. I told you at the beginning of the semester that we're going to be learning some of this stuff as we go. And I really have never been in a situation where I've needed to use a compass. I know that I have one on my iPhone, and hopefully I'll never actually need it, but I have never actually spent time learning how to use a compass. So we're going to be learning this one together. Um, there is a video on here that shows you how to use a compass, and so I'm going to let that explain how to use it, because I think they can explain that better than I can, since we are all learning at this point. I do want to talk about a couple other things first, and then we'll move on to that part of it. The first thing we're going to talk about is pacing. It's important both when you're measuring trees and when you are outside to kind of keep track of how many steps you're walking. And pacing is going to be used to estimate how much space there actually is in between two places. And so if you're somebody who is an avid outdoors person and you enjoy hiking, and going and being outside, even potentially hunting, and you plan to be outdoors for a good amount of time, it's a good idea for you to kind of figure out what your pace is and what your stride length is, because it's going to help you as you are trying to remember where you started from or go back to certain points. So pacing is just used to estimate how much distance that there is in between 2 points, and it's going to be different for everybody because everybody has got a different pace at which they walk. So your stride length is going to be different. You want it to be, you want to do it while you're actually walking at a normal stride, not that you are taking giant steps or that you're taking little bitty steps. And this is for measuring trees as well. Remember, I told you in the last uh, presentation that when you are measuring a tree using a Biltmore stick, you're going to be 66 feet from the tree. So if you're doing that competition for FFA or you're measuring a tree, you typically don't have a measuring wheel or measuring tape to go with you to figure out how far 66 feet is. It's typically an estimate based on how many steps it normally takes you to walk that 66 feet. And so if I were teaching you how to use a Biltmore stick, the first thing that I would do is I would measure out 66 feet on the ground, and I would have you walk it 2 or 3 times to see about how many steps it took you to get that 66 feet. So pacing is important, and you want to do it with a normal stride. You don't want to make all kinds of crazy wide or small steps whenever you're trying to do that. Typically, the taller somebody is, the fewer steps they're going to need, which just makes sense because their legs are longer. And the shorter a person is, they're going to need more steps. And so everybody's pacing is going to be slightly different. When you get into pacing, the stride length is basically the amount of steps that you're going to do, as far as how long your stride is. You know, how much space are you covering every time you take a step? And so your stride length is important because, again, everybody's is going to be a little bit different. Unless you are exactly the same height and you have exactly the same pace, then your stride length is probably going to be a little bit different based on um, who you are, your height, and lots of other factors. So the stride length is just how wide you are moving whenever you're actually moving. Now, as far as navigating with a compass, this is the part where we're getting into territory where I'm not as sure about. We're going to look at the different parts of a compass, and then I'm going to turn it over to the video and allow it to show you how to actually do the reading of the compass. The compass is going to have three major parts. It's going to have the needle, and the needle is going to always point north, or at least the red side is always going to point north. And so that's going to always be able to tell you what direction north is, at least, so that you can figure out maybe what direction you're wanting to walk in, whether you're trying to walk east, southwest, or whatever. The compass housing is the liquid filled part that turns, in order to keep everything um, moving the way that it's supposed to and keep that red needle on north. And so the compass housing is just the actual uh, liquid filled part that contains everything that you need, so that it can move the way that it's supposed to. And then, of course, you'll have a base plate, and the base plate is used to line the compass up with whatever route it is that you're wanting to go. And so it helps you to figure out which direction you're going to walk in. You're going to walk in based on the difference of north and where you're trying to go. So I do have several compasses that I purchased for natural resources, and hopefully cohorts A and B will be able to get in and actually look at some of these things. There is a lot of information on orienteering, which is actually the orienting yourself out in the woods. So there's a lot of information on orienteering and how you actually would use one of these compasses. And so my hope is to even maybe work with the ROTC instructors, because they do a lot of orienteering in order to help you learn a little bit more about it and use the compass in a proper way. So the next couple of slides talks about exactly how you would actually do the measurement. And I'm going to turn that over to the video that I have um, placed on Canvas, because it's an REI video, and I think they probably would do a much better job of explaining how to actually use that compass and shoot that azimuth better than I would. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to get some hands-on with this particular skill whenever we get back to school. So shoot me an email if you have any questions. Hopefully the videos will be a good explanation for you, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do some of this hands-on if you're in cohort A or B.